Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Saturday Standouts. With you, as always, my name is Caleb Skinner. You can follow me at CHS Noah on Twitter, right there below me, right next to my name, at CHS Noah on Twitter. With me, as always, is my friend Sam Daring. He's winding down college right now. Are you done? Are you officially done now, or when's graduation?
May 16th.
May 16th.
Right around the corner.
My boy is grown. He is going to be entering the adult world. Applause to you, sir.
Appreciate it.
Really big thing. Congratulations. Enjoy it. That next day you'll be like, oh damn, real life. Now I got to start, figuring some things out. But it's always fun. Enjoy it, man. I'm sure college was a fun experience for you, like it was myself and a lot of others. But without further ado, we'll this is going to be a shorter show for you guys. It's going to be a quick little Q&A, going over your favorite teams, whatever questions you have. Drop them in the comments. Your favorite player, you got somebody that you're keeping an eye on in the draft. Let us know. Ask us any questions about it. There's a couple questions or a question we put out on Twitter asking the same thing. We got a couple of responses there as well that we are going to share with you guys along the way. And then at the end, we will go over all of our sponsors that we have for you guys. Since it's a short episode, I don't want to, take it away at the beginning, keep you guys here, get you guys your questions right out of the bat. So Sam, I'm going to go ahead and bring it up. 2021 NFL Draft Q&A. Like I said, we'll see if people start hopping in here, giving us questions throughout. But let me go ahead and bring up one of the Twitter questions while we're here. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. But yeah, we're under 10 days till the NFL draft. What are your thoughts, man?
I'm pumped, man. I mean, I got a group chat with my cousins, and all we talk is football, and I got a dynasty draft or a dynasty fantasy football with them, and then that's all we talk about, man. I'm just so pumped, and draft season is one of my favorite times of year. I love it. I'm so pumped.
Yeah, it's extremely exciting time of year. We all love the draft. We all like trying to make different kinds of mocks. Sam and I have done almost 3 or 4 ourselves, depending on all of our shows. We've probably done close to 10. For each of us. So I mean, we're approaching 20 real fast combined. But everybody loves this time of year. We love seeing it in live. A lot of guys aren't doing it live this year. So we'll see what happens with that. It'll be they're living that nature. But I went ahead and put up our tweet that we put out today. Asking the same thing earlier about if anybody had any questions, and we'll go with the first one. That's right here from Tribaholics, which is my podcast, my other podcast that I do that's, FSU based and centered around. But what my podcast decided to ask was, what are your thoughts on any FSU players making it into the first round? And I'll start with you on that, Sam.
I think it's very unlikely. We talked about Marvin Wilson so many times, and, that's probably one of the bigger, draft fallers. And, even in the Senior Bowl, he, didn't really impress a lot. So, I mean, I think he's also a guy that potentially could turn into a steal. I wouldn't mind him. I mean, this is not a deep interior D-line class. I guess we can start with Marvin Wilson, but unless you think Tamorrion Terry's going in the second round, because I think he's going to be an even bigger steal than Marvin Wilson will be.
Yeah, well, I don't think either of those two are going to go first round. If I'm speaking solely off of, an FSU player going the first round, the only name that I could see potentially being there and being worth that first round draft pick would be cornerback Asante Samuel, the third, junior, the second, or whatever you want to say it as. He is the only one worthy. I mean, you can maybe talk about Hampton Nasruddin maybe being able to sneak up in there, but I don't necessarily think that's the case based off of him not playing for, a long time and then just playing 2 games at the end of the year and then injury concerns as well. So Asante Samuel Jr. is really the only one that I see being able to leap up in there. Maybe somebody sitting there at the end or tries to draft back or jump back into the first round because they really want a guy, and Asante Samuel is their guy because they like the type of person he is, the type of demeanor he brings to the field, and the type of play he has put on film. Then, go ahead. But we'll see if he gets drafted there. I'm going to, go into the draft, think absolutely not. There's no way that FSU is going to have one. Asante will probably be that early second round type player that you can grab there. But what are your thoughts on Asante Samuel going in the first round?
I mean, I think if he's going in the first, it'll be one of the last, 28 to 32 teams that definitely need a corner.
Right.
Like the Green Bay Packers. I think what helps, I was talking to one of my friends about this a few weeks ago, is I wasn't really that upset about Kevin King signing, especially because it's an incentive deal similar to Devin Funchess. If he performs at this level, he gets this amount of money. And I think it was around 1 year, $5 million, like what a lot of it was incentives. And that gives the Packers, for example, a chance to, draft that bridge corner. For example, if Caleb Farley falls because of that injury, why not draft Caleb Farley? Because you don't have to rush him in. And, we've already went in depth on the cornerback prospects. I believe that was 3 weeks ago, because I think we did that was 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, 3 weeks ago.
And yeah, I mean, I think if Asante Samuel goes in the first round, it'll definitely be in the 28 to 32 area. I don't see Nasruddin sliding in there. I think a team that is going to be looking for a hybrid guy might be targeting guys like Nasruddin early.
Yeah, it could be interesting. Anthony popping in saying, "Ooh, yeah, Patriots drafting next star." Of course, I forgot to mention that we have, the NFL mock draft, the annual Unwrapped Sports mock draft that we put on. It's just the first round, guys, so it's not going to last all night or 2 days or 3 days or anything like that. We're just going to go first round with you tonight. All the contributors from Unwrapped that are involved with the NFL or college sports in some sort of way or fashion when it comes to football are going to be involved in this. Our founder, Perry, is actually going to be the commissioner. It's going to be exciting. Anthony caught over right here, also part of a Hard Count and Gen Z Sports, 2 podcasts, 2 live shows that we have on the Unwrapped Sports Network saying, "Ooh, yeah, Patriots drafting the next star." So Connie's coming out, letting us know who he's going to, where he's going to be drafted, what team he's going to be drafted for. So look for any movement there from the Patriots. Anthony said he's got. I'm not quite sure about that. He could try and have that complex if he wants to, but we'll see if it works out for him in the Patriots. But we'll move on. If you guys have any questions while you're here, drop them in the comments. Your favorite player, looking at somebody, your favorite team. Let us know what you want to know. Ask us any questions. What we think. We study this stuff on a regular basis, so just let it fly. But we'll move into our second question here on Twitter. And we'll go ahead and knock that one out of the way. And this is from Perry, our co-founder and also my co-host on Keeping It Blunt, saying, who are your favorite late round prospects with upside?
Oh, you want me to start? Okay. So,
yeah,
sure. No problem. So, I mean, I got a few. I guess we can go one by one because I got a few. And I'm going to start with the guy over at Penn State. Not Jason Owe, but the other edge rusher. And, I've seen there's 2 edge rushers, Jason Owe, Joseph Osai. I've seen a lot of very indifferent opinions on both of them in terms of Owe's production, because he's really fluctuating throughout the first 3 rounds. And, Joseph Osai had, some unbelievable games this season. I don't recall which one it was. Might have been Oklahoma. But I've also seen him being viewed as a very raw prospect. But I'm going to go with Shaka Toney. And, if I'm not mistaken, his statistic-wise, he might have, I feel like his stats are better. I don't have it off the top of my head, but I feel like he's put up better numbers this past season than Jason Owe. But, Jason Owe has the higher upside, but I really like Shaka Toney's upside. I think he'll go anywhere from, anywhere in the 5th round, I think is where his area is going to be, 4th to 6th. I would definitely say somewhere in the 5th. This is an athlete, and, he's not that giant prototypical edge rusher like a Gregory Rousseau or a big Quincy Roche guy. But this dude is a super athlete. And, there's multiple edge rushers in this draft that are really making people overlook their size. And we've talked about Kwity Paye. We've talked about Azeez Ojulari, a little bit about Hamilcar Rashed Jr., and that's actually another one that I want to get to. But there's 2 edge rushers that I think are very high in upside. And one of them is Shaka Toney. Tremendous burst of speed. And, he's extremely violent with his hands at times. And, with the opt-outs of Micah Parsons, we saw guys like Jason Owe and Shaka Toney come out. So I got Shaka Toney for my first one.
Yeah, I like that. He's kind of, dropped down a bit, since we originally started talking about prospects in the NFL draft at the start of the season. So, you can kind of say that, he didn't have the production that we were used to seeing, and, he's got the physical attributes to be able to do so. He's very physical specimen. I mean, you see what Penn State's been able to produce on the defensive side of the ball when it comes to their other 2-star defensive players who are in the NFL draft, especially in their testing numbers when it came to their combine that they had at their pro days. So, overall, you're going to get a nice little steal there at the end. I'm going to go on the offensive side of the ball here. And this is somebody we talked about a while ago, Sam, that a lot of people don't have his name in their mouths, and they should. And that's going to be a wide receiver out of North Texas and Jalen Darden. This kid, he's very undersized. I get that, 5'7.5", 175 pounds. But you look at what these guys who are this size are able to do in open space once they get the ball in their hands. Not only that, but when you put on Jalen Darden's tape, it's not all what he can do with the ball in his hands. It's what he can do without the ball in his hands, and that's getting deep. He can beat guys so deep. He's so fast. He's so quick. Everybody wants to talk about what's the kid from Florida's name?
Kadarius Toney.
Kadarius Toney. Everybody wants to talk about Kadarius Toney being a human joystick. He does unbelievable things with the football. Check out Jalen Darden's tape. If you have a second, go check him out. North Texas wide receiver. Somebody to look at. I know there's been people across, the fantasy football networks that have, kind of mentioned his name here and there, and, kind of brought light a little bit there if you follow people like that on Twitter. If not, check him out. This is somebody you guys need to pay attention to. A lot of people don't know who he is. Again, he's fast. He will burn you deep. He had incredible numbers last season. I don't want to go over them all. But I know you kind of became a fan once I introduced you to him as well, Sam.
Yeah, and, that's another guy – that's another guy that can be extremely beneficial and efficient in the return game. And I don't recall his name, but it's the running back for Ohio State, or not Ohio State, excuse me, Iowa State. Teams like the Cardinals have been targeting him as a late round prospect with a lot of upside. I feel like they can use him in a variety of different ways. And that's where I feel like Jalen Darden can be used. If you look at the Cardinals, they drafted Andy Isabella. Hasn't quite lived up to his, potential. I think there's still quite a bit left that they have to unlock out of him. But Jalen Darden, I think I saw a Dolphins mock draft from the Draft Network, and they had the Dolphins taking him. I believe it was the third or fourth round, because he's definitely been a draft riser. I know you and Trill definitely introduced me to him, and I don't recall his pro day numbers. I don't even recall his 40, because honestly, I almost expected it to be a little bit faster. But his speed is absolutely nothing to be, messing around with, because it's absolutely unreal.
Yeah, I mean, he's a 3-year starter at North Texas. He, godly numbers like I spoke about before, so I don't want to go through those because everybody's just gonna be like, wow. But I do kind of want to talk about a good fit for him. And you look at teams, you had already mentioned one in the Arizona Cardinals. It would be a nice looking fit there, a nice, exciting, young, small wide receiver that can do a lot of different things for you, even though he is undersized. But you have, veteran wide receivers to be able to teach him the way and learn little smaller details to be able to gain an advantage against your opponent on the other side of the ball. And, putting them in a place like that where they can make up for some of the mistakes. And you look at some of the young guys with the Bucks, like a Mickens, who is extremely young, but he's behind all these veteran, legit wide receivers that can teach him things. And you saw that kind of a rise as the season progressed, and especially when it came to his return game. He was becoming confident in himself with the speed of the game and everything of that nature too. So you put him in a team like the Cardinals, who are going to be able to put that pressure on him, get him to learn and be able to cover up his mistakes when they do happen. It's a good fit. I mean, you also look at teams like the Kansas City Chiefs. They're in need of a wide receiver right now after losing Sammy Watkins. And look at, the Patriots, obviously, maybe the Bears, or, maybe a team like Seattle could use a third weapon that they haven't really been able to, utilize yet, especially in the wide receiver room.
Yeah, I mean, there's two teams. One of them you just ended with is the Kansas City Chiefs. And for basically the same reasons you just said, Caleb, they lost Sammy Watkins to the Ravens, and they love speed. They had McCole Hardman with the intention of Tyreek Hill not playing. McCole Hardman hasn't quite lived up to his potential, I would also say. I still think he can absolutely prove himself to be that reliable number 2 option. But if they want that true slot guy, I think Jalen Darden would be a really nice fit. And another team that loves speed is over in Las Vegas. Hunter Renfrow was drafted, great elite speed. They drafted Henry Ruggs, and a lot of people were really surprised that Ruggs was the first receiver off the board, which it definitely is surprising over guys like Jerry Jeudy and even CeeDee Lamb. But that is a total Mike Mayock pick. And, we've talked about this before. Like, Mike Mayock really banks on these. He reaches for a lot of these players. I think Ruggs was a little bit of a reach considering you have guys like CeeDee Lamb and Jerry Jeudy on the board. But you bring in another guy, another speedster, and Jalen Darden, I think that would really open up that playbook for Las Vegas.
Yeah, that would be good for them too. I didn't think about that. That would be a nice fit there. We got Matt Skura hopping in here from YouTube. Also going to be on picking. I forget who he's picking for. He might be picking for your Green Bay Packers. I'm not 100% sure.
I saw that.
But he comes in and asks, "How pumped are you guys for the mock draft tonight?" I know Sam isn't going to be able to particularly be involved. I'm sure he'll tune in from time to time to check in and see what's going on. But yeah, I mean, are you excited for it? Just being from the outside, not actually being a part of it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really cool idea. I mean, yeah, I wish I could be a part of it. But yeah, I mean, it's awesome. Yeah, I'm pumped. Matt, he's got the Giants too. Matt, do not disappoint. You better pick a good pick for the Packers. I don't want to see no kicker. I don't want to see Kyle Trask. I don't want to see anyone that isn't a quarterback or anyone, offensive tackle, corner, perhaps a D-line. Appreciate it, Matt.
There you go. Sam, not Sam. All right, and we'll continue it. So, nobody's really throwing any questions in here about, their teams or their favorite players or any players that they want to be asked about other than what we got on Twitter at this point. Another guy, I guess, because you said you had a few guys. We'll continue with what Perry said. Any other late round, guys you can see being, coming up, becoming, at least a serviceable player of the NFL, but not only that, but maybe even potentially a star.
So this guy technically is a one-year wonder, but tremendous amount of upside. He's super athletic, and he's really grown as a route runner. Dax Milne out of BYU, Zach Wilson's top target this past season. He blew it up. He blew up the college football world. 1,188 yards and 8 touchdowns. And if I'm looking, I made this mock draft for the Cards Wire because I see the Arizona Cardinals as a team like this. They're still waiting on Larry Fitzgerald's decision. Christian Kirk, I don't think has really proved enough to be that reliable number 2 guy. I'm not saying Dax Milne can come in and immediately compete, but Dax Milne can come in and compete for a future spot at that number 2 position, because I think Dax Milne is going to end up being one of those steals in that deep wide receiver class.
I don't know much about him, to be honest with you. I can't sit here and lie to anybody who's watching. I don't know much about Dax Miller, but I mean, he did play. He said at BYU, so he played with Zach Wilson. So he's. I've watched them a few games this season. So I mean, if I'm thinking of who I'm thinking of correctly, I think he might have worn number 1 last year when he was at BYU. I'm not 100% sure, but if I'm thinking of who I'm thinking of, he was consistently having 100-yard games over and over again with Zach Wilson, then he's going to be legit. I mean, you put him in the right spot, make it work, make it be perfect. Good late round. Like I said, we've mentioned this over and over again. This wide receiver class is super deep, extremely deep. So you really never know who's going to be grabbed where after, those first few guys, because there's teams out there looking for specific types of wide receivers to fit the system that they are in. You see more and more teams start paying attention to this as we keep going along in NFL seasons. But I'll stick on the opposite side of the ball too. And I might be stealing one of your guys, Sam, but I'll let you talk first about him because he is your guy. But I'm just going to go ahead and say the name, okay? Quinn Miners.
This dude, I'm really glad you brought this up. I wouldn't even say late round because I think he could go as early as the 2nd round.
Wow, you think so?
Yes. And I've seen plenty of mocks, after his Senior Bowl, I've seen him fly up to the 3rd, 4th round. I saw him in the 2nd round mock draft today. I think he could go as early as the 2nd round. I feel like I've heard one person say the 1st. I think it's a little bit of a reach, but Quinn Meinerz, from Hartford, Wisconsin, which is about 15, 20 minutes for me. I ended up playing against him in high school. Luckily, I wasn't able to go one-on-one with him. Otherwise, he would have, kicked my butt. But would have been cool to get my butt kicked against a current NFL prospect. But yeah, I mean, this dude is an animal. And we've seen multiple tweets of him, of his workouts, has such a strong work ethic. Went to Whitewater. Whitewater's a powerhouse D3 school in Wisconsin. I think they've been to multiple championships. They're a winning school, and so he knows what it's like to be in a winning culture. And if I'm not mistaken, when he was at Hartford, Hartford was very, very good when he was there. And I think he played a bit of tackle in high school as well. He kicked him into guard. So I think he can also be that guy that can show off a lot of versatility. And there was, I think it was in Canada, where he showed his off-season workout. And it was just a lot of technique on, the stem of a tree. I don't know if you saw that. It kind of went viral shortly after his Senior Bowl performance. And then the Packers, my Green Bay Packers, held a private workout with him. I believe it was last week. He put up, I think, like 33 bench reps of 225. Unreal. This dude should not be slept on. I love these D3 wonders. Your Buccaneers got a guy in Ali Marpet from Hobart like 2-3 years ago, and he was projected to start on the depth chart like right away too, like coming into week 1. And so, yeah, I mean, I love these D3 stories, and Quinn Miners is another one of them. Last year we had Ben Barch out of St. John's, who was drafted, early to mid day 3 by the Jaguars. This year we got Quinn Miners, who I definitely think could go as early as the 2nd round.
Yeah, that would be awesome for him to be able to do that. I just wanted to bring it up because a lot of people probably don't know if they don't pay that close of attention to things like this. So I kind of want to throw that name out there. We've thrown it out there before, but like we're closing in on this. You guys got to keep an eye out for this guy. He is an Ali Marpet type. He's actually had a conversation, or they stayed in constant contact with one another, Ali Marpet and Quinn Miners. So, I mean, having that connection with an NFL starter already in the NFL who knows what it takes to be an NFL caliber starter on the offensive line, and you're in contact with him and you're like probably pretty much good friends because you have that connection right there from being a D3 school. So it's huge. I'm sure he's going to do great. He tested out of the waters. I mean, what he put up 33 reps on the bench press, something ridiculous like that. Yeah. Kid's a monster. You see him at a Senior Bowl, absolutely shine at the Senior Bowl, going up against D1 competition. So you can't put that label on him anymore that it's just because he's D3, blah, 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 because he has gone up against competition, albeit one game. But that is the case. You're still going up against these guys. These guys are trying to show off as well. And a lot of these guys are big names. So, I mean, he held his own, and he did more than that. And I'm excited to see where he goes. Absolutely. Network coming here and say, hey, what's up, Unwrapped? I'll be seeing you guys here shortly, about 20 minutes. But yeah, Sam, anybody else for you before, we can just talk about whatever?
I feel like we can just end on this guy if you want. A guy that screams versatility, a guy that played QB at North Carolina, ended up switching over to linebacker, an athletic freak. Isn't too active with his hands, but I feel like if he's coached the right way, he could have a very productive NFL career, and that's Chaz Surratt.
Yeah, interesting. I like Chaz Surratt. We were talking about him a lot as we were going through the wide receivers on why he's falling and all of this nature, but you got to remember some things were out of his control this past season, and that happens, but he is a very good, balanced wide receiver, can get deep, can shed receivers pretty good speed as well. Just overall, I don't know how much we need to keep. We'll just go back and we'll just do another wide receiver thing from here on out. Like we're going to be doing just wide receivers. Let's talk about receivers for a second. This wide receiver class is just insanely deep. You got Amon-Ra St. Brown still there, Morion Terry, Sage Surratt. You've got guys like Amari Rogers from Clemson.
Yep.
Isn't he in this draft?
Cornell Powell, who I saw slide into the 2nd today.
What's the kid from Louisville's name?
Tutu Atwell, Des Fitzpatrick.
There's a ton of wide receivers that are going to be serviceable for teams in this draft. Do you think that's probably the deepest position in the draft? So we take that from there too.
In this year's, absolutely. I think it's more of an
Yeah.
offensive draft, deep secondary, like we've discussed. But I think this is definitely, more of an offensive draft than it is defense. Deep wide receiver class last year. It's even deeper this year.
Yeah, it's extremely deep. I mean, it's probably a battle between that and offensive lineman, and then you can maybe throw quarterback just because of the need for one, I guess, right now. Like, it's not necessarily deep, but there's such a need for these teams to get a good quarterback, and it seems like they view most of these quarterbacks as having potential either as a backup or as a starter. So those three are really potent heading into the NFL draft. But wide receiver, I think, is by far the deepest. I think edge is pretty deep as well if you want to look at the defensive side of the ball, and then secondary too. But if you combine safeties and corners together as well. So it's going to be very interesting overall. But I mean, do you think there's going to be anything wild? Let me ask you that, since you're not going to be on the live draft tonight. Let me ask, what are your thoughts on what's going to happen in the NFL draft? Is there going to be anything crazy that we see happen in this first night, the first round?
Anything wild in your draft or wild in the actual
No.
draft?
Just the actual draft. The actual draft.
I mean, I can totally see someone ending up trading up for a quarterback, depending on what happens with the first three spots. And if I'm the New England Patriots, I think the Washington football team should at least have their eyes on people like quarterbacks like that. I mean, anything could happen. We saw the Chiefs trade up from 27 to 10 with Pat Mahomes, and the rest is history. We all know how that ended up. So,
yeah, I'm torn. I think it could get like really wild if something crazy happens within those first 5 picks. I think after those first 5 picks, things kind of open up and you take who you want to take. No, nobody's really going to be making any wild moves, especially with the opt outs that we saw and things of that nature throughout the season. So, I don't know, leak trade. What? There's a leak trade, Matt. You got to explain more. I'm not.
So I'm gonna guess, Matt. Are you talking about the one that had Jordan Love going to the Patriots? Because I think that's fake. I don't see the source.
I don't see that. I don't see that happening.
No. So it was the Packers getting the 15th pick for like the Patriots get the 29th pick, a 4th. Yep, it is. And Jordan Love. I don't know who the Packers would be taking. Perhaps one of my draft crushes, Elijah Vera-Tucker or Jeremiah Wusu-Koramoah, but I wouldn't even do that. There's a lot of people that are even saying that they don't even think the Packers are going to be picking in the first round. A lot of people seem to think the Packers might even trade back. But what are your thoughts on that leak trade? I think it's fake.
Yeah, I think it's fake. I don't think Packers do that after taking him second overall. It's kind of pointless. Or not second. They took him right there, or whatever. Second. It was their first pick, right?
Yeah, it was like 26. Yeah, 26.
Late in the first round. Yeah. So, I mean, you're not going to do that when you select a guy there. You're preparing for the future for this kid. It's not going to happen, especially not to the Patriots. You're not going to give Bill Belichick the weapon that you ultimately saw promise in, and still probably do have promise in, because he hasn't really played all that much that we've seen, other than practice and in the spring and the summer workouts and everything of that nature. And he's learning from Aaron Rodgers. So why not set your franchise up for a much longer haul of being successful than trading him away for depth pieces at best?
Mm-hmm. I saw a tweet shortly before we went live, and I thought it was really interesting. I want to bring it up. I don't remember who tweeted it, but the question was, if Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson, and Justin Fields were not in this draft class, would Trey Lance or Mac Jones be the first pick?
Mac Jones would probably be the first pick, but I would say Trey Lance would probably be right after.
You think it'd be Mac Jones?
Just because people like the savviness he has and recency bias. But also the savviness that he possesses at the quarterback position. He's very calm in the pocket. If you set him to a system that successful, I don't see a problem going number one. But if it's the Jags, they would probably go Trey Lance maybe. I don't know, it'd probably split between them. But if the Jets were number one, they would probably 100% go Trey Lance. Or I mean, who knows? It's just you take your pick on which type of quarterback you want. But I think, him being in Alabama and him being under Nick Saban, and he understands the pressures. So you take him overall. He's more of a game managing type, and that might work. That might bode better for you than like a fresh, young, huge ceiling type quarterback that you could possess at the number one spot. And just you don't want to throw a guy like that in immediately into a bad team. I always feel bad for those guys that are thrust into a situation like that. It sucks. So I mean, ultimately, Mac Jones would probably be better. Would probably be your better number one overall pick. Is what I would think and say, but who knows? It comes down to who's in that front office and what they merit more.
I mean, I think if I'm not mistaken, I think the Jaguars are also shopping Gardner Minshew. I think Gardner Minshew would be their starting quarterback week one still.
I think Gardner Minshew could be a starting quarterback in the NFL wherever he gets traded.
I think it depends where. I think if he goes to Denver, for example, which I like, I think he immediately can come and compete with Drew Lock. My opinion on the Broncos drafting a quarterback.
I'm not saying like any team that needs a quarterback or would want a quarterback.
Right.
Those teams he could be able to start on.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's shown that he can be capable of competing for a starting job. I actually like the Broncos fit a lot, but yeah.
All right, man. Well, I think that's going to do it. I got to hop on over, get ready for the draft that's coming on at 9:00, guys. So stay tuned in, whether that's on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, whatever you guys are watching on, be sure to tune in to our live mock draft, the first round mock draft between all of our contributors. I'll be Todd McShay. I was the Bucks, but I traded back out of the first round, got myself another second round draft pick this year, as well as a first round swap from the Chicago Bears for dropping out of that second round. I'm pretty excited with that move. I don't have to focus on my draft picks. I'm just going to focus on being Todd McShay. You guys tune in. It's going to be an exciting thing. But before we log off, Sam, any last words for the people?
No, I mean, I had a lot of fun. I think this went really well. Thank you for all the questions. Thanks for popping in. Matt, better not disappoint with the Green Bay Packers. I know you won't. You've made some great picks. I don't remember who you picked last time as the commissioner. But I remember it being a good one, but I don't remember what it was for our mock draft. Remember what it was?
Me? I forget who it was.
I don't remember who he picked.
He'll tell us.
I think he picked a corner. I don't remember who it was though.
Maybe it went Asante Samuel. I think he did go Asante Samuel Jr. because I was excited.
Oh, you're right. Yep. And then I fully expected Jeremiah Wusa-Cornwall. You're right.
Yep. Let's go. All right. With that being said, guys, stay tuned in. We've got about 25 minutes to our live mock draft, so that's going to be awesome. Follow Sam and myself at our respective @ right there on Twitter. Follow Saturday Standouts on Twitter at Sat Standouts, capital USN at the end. It's awesome, guys. Head over. We don't really put out that much stuff other than, what our content is. And he said he did. Matt did say he did take Asante Samuel Jr. Glad we were able to finally remember that. Guys, if you were watching with us tonight, you obviously saw the ticker. Go follow all our sponsors. Go take a look at what we have to offer, especially on our Teespring shop. So teespring.com/stores/unwrap. And then head over to patreon.com and type in Unwrap Sports at the top. Join our Patreon, join our Discord. We got a bunch of talk, a bunch of, exclusive content, especially when it comes to gambling picks and things of that nature for you guys, the fans, especially, as well as contributors that you're able to talk to in there as well. With that being said, thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of Saturday Standouts.